A man walks into a coffee shop wearing faded jeans, an old baseball cap, and a jacket that looks like it has seen better days. No one notices him. The businessman in the tailored suit orders first. The woman carrying a designer handbag receives admiring glances. The luxury SUV parked outside naturally draws attention. The man in the worn jacket quietly pays for his coffee and leaves. What no one realizes is that he owns the building they're standing in. His investment portfolio is worth over $10 million. And if you asked everyone in that coffee shop to guess who the millionaire was, almost every single person would choose someone else. We've been taught to recognize wealth by looking for expensive things. Luxury cars, large homes, designer clothes, private jets. But what if we've been looking in exactly the wrong direction? Because the people who look the richest are often the ones spending the most, and the people who quietly become wealthy are often almost invisible. That raises an uncomfortable question. If real millionaires can afford anything, why do so many choose to look ordinary? The answer isn't about money. It's about human psychology. In the late 1990s, two researchers spent years studying wealthy Americans. Thomas Stanley and William Danko weren't interested in celebrities or billionaires whose names filled newspapers. They wanted to understand ordinary millionaires, the teachers, small business owners, engineers, contractors, doctors, people who quietly built fortunes over decades. What they discovered challenged almost everything society believes about wealth. Most millionaires didn't drive luxury cars. Many bought used vehicles. They often lived in modest neighborhoods. They rarely wore expensive watches. Some had lived in the same house for 30 years, despite having enough money to buy something much larger. They weren't pretending to be middle class. They simply didn't see status as something worth purchasing. The surprising part wasn't how much they earned, it was how little they felt the need to prove it. Meanwhile, another group appeared incredibly wealthy. Luxury cars, designer clothing, upscale restaurants, the newest gadgets, beautiful homes with impressive driveways. Yet, many of these households had surprisingly little actual wealth. High income, high spending, very little left over. The researchers called these people under-accumulators of wealth. From the outside, they looked successful. On paper, they owned very little. This is where everything changes. Most people confuse income with wealth. They're not the same thing. Income is what flows into your life. Wealth is what stays. Imagine two people each earning $200,000 a year. One spends $190,000. The other spends $120,000 and quietly invests the rest. After 10 years, they may appear equally successful. After 30 years, they could be living completely different lives. Because wealth grows silently, lifestyle announces itself loudly. Psychologists have a concept called signaling theory. Long before luxury brands existed, humans used visible signals to communicate status. In nature, a peacock's feathers signal health. A stag's antlers signal strength. Among humans, expensive possessions often serve the same purpose. They communicate success. Whether or not that success is financially sustainable is another question entirely. This desire runs deeper than vanity. Our brains evolved in small tribes where social status influenced survival. Higher status often meant better access to food, protection, and opportunities. Although modern life has changed dramatically, the psychological wiring remains. Today, instead of competing for hunting territory, we compete for symbols, cars, neighborhoods, watches, vacations, job titles. Social media has only amplified this instinct. For most of human history, people compared themselves with a few dozen neighbors. Today, we compare ourselves with millions of carefully edited lives every day. Someone is always driving something newer, living somewhere bigger, traveling somewhere more exotic. Comparison has become endless. However, here's what most people never notice. The truly wealthy often stop playing this game. Not because they're morally superior, because they've discovered something more valuable: freedom. Every dollar spent maintaining an image is a dollar that can no longer buy independence. This creates an interesting psychological shift. People seeking status ask one question: what will other people think? People seeking freedom ask another: what does this cost me tomorrow? Those questions produce completely different lives. Warren Buffett still lives in the Omaha home he purchased in 1958. Despite becoming one of the richest people on earth, he never felt compelled to constantly upgrade his lifestyle. His wealth gave him choices. He didn't use those choices to impress strangers. He used them to maintain independence. The same pattern appears repeatedly among self-made millionaires. They don't avoid spending because they dislike nice things. They avoid unnecessary spending because they understand opportunity cost. Every purchase competes with every future possibility. A luxury car isn't only the price on the dealership window. It's also the investments that money could have become, the businesses it could have funded, the years of financial freedom it could have purchased. Behavioral economists describe another fascinating bias called hedonic adaptation. Humans quickly become accustomed to improvements. The dream car eventually becomes just the car. The larger house becomes normal. The excitement fades, but the monthly payments remain exactly the same. Then the brain quietly searches for the next upgrade, another purchase, another achievement, another symbol. The finish line moves again. The cycle repeats. This helps explain why some high-income households never feel wealthy. Their income keeps increasing. So do their expectations. Their lifestyle expands to consume every new dollar. Financially, they're running faster simply to stay in the same place. Meanwhile, someone earning much less but investing consistently experiences a completely different emotional journey. Their visible lifestyle changes very little. Their invisible wealth grows every year. One is purchasing appearances, the other is purchasing options. But here's what nobody tells you. Looking wealthy and being wealthy activate different parts of human psychology. Looking wealthy creates external validation. People notice, they compliment, they admire. Being wealthy creates internal security. You sleep better, you worry less. You gain the freedom to make decisions without desperation. One depends on other people's opinions. The other depends on your own balance sheet. And external validation has an unfortunate characteristic. It expires quickly. Psychologists have found that recognition loses its emotional impact remarkably fast. Yesterday's promotion becomes today's expectation. Last year's luxury purchase becomes ordinary. Status requires constant maintenance. Freedom does not. Perhaps that's why genuine wealth is so difficult to recognize. Real wealth often has no logo, no audience, no announcement. It's the emergency fund no one sees, the debt that doesn't exist, the investments quietly compounding while everyone else is scrolling through luxury lifestyles online. It's invisible by design. In many ways, society has trained us to admire spending more than saving. Buying is visible, investing is silent. Consumption creates headlines, compounding creates history. The irony is almost poetic. The people chasing the appearance of wealth often sacrifice the very thing they're trying to project. While those who quietly accumulate wealth often appear surprisingly ordinary, not because they lack ambition, but because they've learned that the greatest luxury isn't owning expensive things, it's owning your future. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about millionaires isn't how much money they have, it's why they don't feel the need to prove it. Because once your confidence comes from what you own inside your balance sheet, instead of what others see from the outside, luxury becomes a choice instead of a requirement. And maybe that's the final secret. The wealthiest person in the room isn't always the one everyone notices. More often, it's the one who no longer needs to be.